Nia Caldwell strode into Peachtree Bank, her tailored suit crisp, requesting $2 million for a merger. The teller, Greg, a wiry man with a smug grin, scoffed, demanding her real job, assuming she was a fraud. Nia pointed to the skyline, her name blazing on Caldwell Enterprises' tower. Greg's smirk vanished, but spite gleamed in his eyes. He voided her request, muttered a slur, and security hauled her out, humiliating her. This spark would torch her empire. Could Nia rise from such a vicious slight? Before this story unfolds, let me know where you're watching from, and if you stand for justice, hit that like and subscribe button, because tomorrow's episode will blow your mind with a twist you won't see coming. Nia Caldwell's heels clicked on the marble floor of her office, the skyline of Atlanta sprawling beyond the glass walls, her name still glowing on the tower across the street. Her blood boiled from the morning's insult at Peachtree Bank, where that smug teller Greg had called her a fraud, muttered a vile slur, and had her dragged out by security. The memory stung like a fresh cut. His sneer burned into her mind, but she shoved it down. She had a merger to close, a $2 million deal to cement Caldwell Enterprises as a titan in tech. She wasn't about to let some low-life teller derail her. Sitting at her desk, she dialed her lawyer, Carla Reese, a sharp-witted woman who'd battled corporate sharks for decades. Carla's voice crackled through the speaker, calm but urgent. Nia recounted the bank fiasco, her words clipped, fury lacing every syllable. She wanted Peachtree Bank sued into oblivion, Greg's job shredded, and an apology plastered across every billboard in Georgia. Carla agreed, promising to file a discrimination suit by noon. Nia hung up, exhaling, feeling the first flicker of control since the morning's chaos. She glanced at her team, a tight crew of programmers and strategists, their faces tense but loyal, ready to push the merger through. The deal was her legacy, a software platform that could rival Silicon Valley giants, and she'd clawed her way to this moment through years of boardroom battles and whispered slurs. No one was stealing it now. But as she opened her laptop to check the merger funds, her screen froze. A red alert blinked. Account suspended. Contact Peachtree Bank. Her stomach dropped. She tried another account, then her corporate reserves, same message. Every dollar, personal and business, was locked. Her assistant, Jamal, rushed in, his phone buzzing with notifications. He showed her a news article, the headline screaming, "Caldwell Enterprises CEO probed for fraudulent transactions." The story claimed Nia had forged her wealth, scamming investors to build her fake empire. It quoted an anonymous source at Peachtree Bank, alleging suspicious activity tied to her withdrawal attempt. Nia's pulse hammered. This wasn't random. Greg's stunt at the bank was a spark. This was a coordinated inferno. She called the bank, demanding answers, but the line cut to a recorded message about security protocols. Her team scrambled, checking servers, calling brokers, but every financial artery was choked. The merger's deadline loomed, 72 hours away, and without those funds the deal would collapse, her company gutted. Nia stood, pacing, her mind racing for a culprit. Greg was a pawn, too small for this kind of power. Someone bigger was pulling strings, someone who saw her tower, her success, and wanted it crushed. She didn't have to wait long for the answer. Her phone pinged with an email from an unknown sender, no subject. She opened it, and a single line chilled her. "You don't belong here, and we'll prove it." Attached was a photo of her Buckhead mansion snapped from the street, her car in the driveway. Nia's breath caught. This wasn't just about money, it was personal, a declaration of war. She forwarded the email to Carla, who promised to trace it, but Nia knew legal moves wouldn't outrun this storm. She turned to the window, the city's pulse humming below, and spotted a news van parked outside her tower. Reporters swarmed, cameras flashing, their feeds already branding her a con artist. Social media was worse. Her notifications flooded, with hate, slurs piling up like garbage, her address circulating in dark corners of the internet. Jamal showed her a post with her face photoshopped behind bars, captioned with a racial epithet and a call to teach her a lesson. Nia's fists clenched, nails biting her palms. She'd faced bias before, subtle jabs in boardrooms, but this was a public execution, her name dragged through the mud for daring to rise. She called a crisis meeting, her team crowding the conference room, their voices a mix of panic and resolve. They brainstormed counters, a press release, a countersuit, anything to stem the bleeding. Nia rallied them, her voice steady despite the knot in her gut, promising they'd fight back. She assigned Jamal to lock down their servers, fearing a cyber attack, and sent her PR lead Simone to draft a statement denying the fraud claims. But as the meeting wrapped, a sharp crack shattered the air. Glass sprayed across the room, a brick thudding onto the carpet, a folded note taped to it. Nia's team froze, eyes wide. She knelt, hands trembling, and unfolded the paper. Scrawled. In red ink was a single word, a slur so vile it burned her eyes. Her throat tightened, rage and fear colliding. She looked up, meeting her team's gazes, their silence louder than the city outside. The brick wasn't just a threat. It was a message, tied to the frozen accounts, the leaked address, the news vans. Someone wanted her broken, her empire reduced to ash. Nia stood, clutching the note, her mind flashing to the bank, Greg's spiteful eyes, and the tower bearing her name. She didn't know who was orchestrating this, but she'd find them. Her phone buzzed again, Carla's name on the screen. Nia answered, expecting a legal update, but Carla's voice was grim. She'd traced the email, not to Greg, but to an executive suite at Peachtree Bank, linked to Roland Vance, the bank's vice president. Nia's jaw tightened. Roland, a silver-haired fixture in Atlanta's power circles, was a name she'd heard in passing, a man who golfed with senators and dined with judges. She'd never met him, never crossed him, but his name on that email told her everything. He wasn't just reacting to her withdrawal, he was enraged by her existence, a black woman whose wealth and power mocked his worldview. Roland had the clout to freeze her accounts, spin lies to the press, and turn her life into a target. Nia hung up, her mind spinning. She told Jamal to dig into Roland's dealings, anything to fight back. But deep down she knew this was only the start. The merger clock was ticking, her team was shaken, and the city was turning against her. She walked to the broken window, glass crunching under her shoes, and stared at the news vans below, their lights pulsing like vultures circling a corpse. The slur on the note seared her mind, a reminder of what she was up against, not just one man, but a system that saw her as a threat. Nia's fingers tightened around the note, crumpling it. She'd built Caldwell Enterprises from nothing, against every odd, and she wasn't about to let Roland Vance or anyone tear it down. But as she turned back to her team, a faint glow flickered outside, not from the city but closer on the street. She squinted, heart lurching, and saw shadows moving, too many, too organized. The news vans weren't alone. Figures gathered, their faces hidden, signs in their hands, and she caught a glimpse of one word, the same slur from the note scrawled in bold. Nia's breath hitched. This wasn't just a brick or a smear. It was a gathering storm, and Roland was fanning the flames. She told her team to lock the doors, her voice steady but her pulse racing, knowing whatever came next would hit harder than anything she'd faced today. The city she'd called home, the empire she'd built, was now a battlefield, and Roland Vance was just getting started. Nia Caldwell's office was a fortress of locked doors and dimmed lights. The shattered window from the brick attack now boarded up, but the air still reeked of menace. Her team huddled inside, their faces taut, phones buzzing with threats that had followed the news van's lies, branding Nia a fraud. The slur-scrawled note lay crumpled on her desk, a venomous reminder of Roland Vance, the Peachtree Bank VP orchestrating this war. Nia's pulse hadn't slowed since spotting those shadows. Outside, their signs flashing that same hateful word under the city's glow. She'd told Jamal to keep digging into Roland's dirt, but her focus was survival. The merger, her tech empire's lifeline, hung by a thread, its funds still frozen by Roland's pull. Carla, her lawyer, had called an hour ago with a lifeline, a court order to unfreeze her accounts, citing discriminatory practices. Nia had grinned, a rare spark of hope, and rallied her team for a late-night push to salvage the deal. They'd ordered pizza, cracked jokes, and for a moment the weight lifted. She felt like the CEO again, the woman who'd built Caldwell Enterprises. From a laptop in a cramped apartment, defying every sneer to etch her name on Atlanta's skyline. The accounts were back online by midnight, funds flowing, and Nia wired the first million toward the merger. She toasted her team with coffee mugs, their laughter echoing, believing they'd outmaneuvered Roland's smear campaign. But hope was a trap. As Nia checked her email, a new alert pinged, a viral post with her Buckhead Mansion's address, tagged with slurs and a call to reclaim the neighborhood. Her stomach twisted. She rushed to the window, peeling back the board, and saw them, a.e. mob swelling on the street below. Not just shadows now, but dozens of figures, their faces twisted with rage, torches flickering in their hands. Signs bobbed above their heads, crude letters spelling out the same slur from the brick, others reading, "Go back where you came from." Nia's breath hitched, her fingers trembling as she dialed 911. The operator's voice was cold, dismissive, promising a patrol when available. She hung up, knowing no help was coming. Her team crowded behind her, their whispers frantic, but Nia's eyes locked on the mob, their chants growing louder, a guttural roar that shook her bones. She recognized none of them, yet they knew her. Her face, her home, her life, all weaponized by Roland's leaks. Jamal pulled up a live stream on his phone, some vlogger egging the crowd on, calling Nia a thief who'd stolen her wealth. The lies stung, but the reality was worse. These weren't just trolls. They were organized, fueled by a hate Roland had stoked from his executive suite. Nia's security guard, Malik, a burly ex-Marine, stood by the door, his hand on his holster, but she waved him back. No guns, not yet. She needed a plan, not a bloodbath. She told her team to grab their laptops and head for the back exit, her voice steady despite the dread clawing her chest. They'd regroup at her mansion, a gated compound. She thought was safe. But as Malik scouted the stairwell, blue lights flashed outside, not rescue, but betrayal. Cops stormed the street, not to disperse the mob, but to join them, their radios crackling as they laughed with the torch wielders. One officer, a square-jawed man with a buzz cut, pointed at Malik, shouting he'd brandished a weapon. Before Nia could react, cuffs snapped around Malik's wrists, his protests drowned by the mob's cheers. The cops dragged him to a squad car, leaving the crowd unchecked. Nia's heart pounded, her team frozen, but she snapped them into action, herding them toward the back exit. They slipped into the alley, the city's humid air thick with the scent of asphalt and fear, but the mob's chants followed, echoing off the towers. Nia led them to her SUV, parked a block away, and floored it toward Buckhead, her knuckles white on the wheel. The mansion was her last stand, its high walls and cameras a shield against the chaos. She called Carla, briefing her on the mob, begging for legal muscle to free Malik. Carla promised to pull strings, but her voice wavered, a crack Nia hadn't heard before. The drive was a blur, streetlights streaking past, her team silent in the back, their faith in her fraying. She pulled into the mansion's gate, punching the code, and the iron bars clanked shut behind them. Inside, she locked every door, activated the alarms, and set her team to work, tracking Roland's moves online. Jamal found a thread linking the mob to a dark web forum, its post signed with Roland's initials, a taunt hidden in plain sight. Nia's jaw clenched, rage surging, but before she could plan her counter, a sharp hiss cut the air. A bottle sailed over the gate, shattering on her lawn, flames erupting in a whoosh of heat. The Molotov cocktail's blaze lit the night, black smoke curling as the mob's chants swelled now at her doorstep. Nia's team screamed, scrambling for extinguishers, but the fire licked closer, its crackle drowning their cries. She grabbed, a fire hose from the garage spraying the flames, her arms burning with effort. But the mob hurled another bottle, then another, each explosion rocking the yard. Nia's eyes stung, smoke choking her lungs, but she kept fighting, dousing the blaze until the lawn was a smoldering ruin. The mob didn't advance, their torches still dancing beyond the gate, but their message was clear. Nowhere was safe. Nia's phone buzzed, an unknown number. She answered, and a distorted voice rasped, "You can't hide fraud." It cut off, but she knew it was Roland's doing, his reach suffocating her life. She turned to her team, their faces ashen, and saw the truth. Her mansion, her empire, her city, all were battlegrounds now. She ordered everyone to pack essentials, her voice a blade, and led them to a hidden back gate, a service exit she'd never used. They slipped into the woods behind the property, thorns snagging their clothes, the mob's roars fading but never gone. Nia's mind raced, replaying the cops' betrayal, Malik's arrest, the flames. Roland wasn't just a banker, he was a puppeteer, turning Atlanta against her with a flick of his wrist. She needed a new plan, a new hideout, someone to trust. Her phone lit up, a text from Marcus, a tech mogul she'd mentored years ago. He offered his safe house, a bunker off the grid, no questions asked. Nia hesitated, her trust battered, but she had no choice. She typed a reply agreeing to meet and led her team deeper into the night, the city's skyline a distant taunt, her name on the tower now a target. Roland had drawn blood, but she wasn't broken. Yet as she vanished into the shadows, the mob's chants lingered, a promise of worse to come. Could she outrun a city-turned-predator? Drop a comment with number 1 if you're raging at Roland's dirty tricks. Hit that like button if you're rooting for Nia's comeback, and subscribe because the next chapter's twist will leave you speechless. What happens when Nia's only ally hides a secret that could bury her for good? Nia Caldwell's boots sank into the muddy woods behind her Buckhead mansion, thorns clawing at her jacket as she led her team through the dark, the mob's chants fading into the humid Atlanta night. The firebomb's acrid stench lingered in her nostrils. The image of her scorched lawn seared into her mind, a brutal escalation from Roland Vance's smears and the brick that had shattered her office window. Her team, 5 shaken souls clutching laptops and bags, followed in silence, their trust in her fraying after the cops' betrayal and Malik's arrest. Nia's phone glowed with Marcus's text, offering his safe house, a lifeline she barely trusted but couldn't refuse. Her empire, Caldwell Enterprises, teetered, the merger's funds unfrozen but the deadline looming, and Roland, the Peachtree Bank VP, was tightening his noose with every move. She navigated by moonlight, guiding her team to a gravel road where Marcus's driver, a quiet man in a black SUV, waited. Nia scanned his face, searching for deceit, but saw only a nod. They piled in, the engine's hum a faint comfort as they sped toward the safe house, a concrete bunker tucked in Atlanta's industrial sprawl, far from the city's vengeful pulse. Marcus greeted them at the door, his tech mogul swagger intact, dreadlocks tied back. His smile warm but his eyes guarded. Nia had mentored him a decade ago, back when he was a coder with big dreams, and she wanted to believe he was her ally. He ushered them inside, the bunker's steel walls lined with monitors and servers, a fortress against the chaos. Nia's team collapsed onto cots, exhausted, while she and Marcus sat at a metal table, a single bulb casting stark shadows. He poured coffee, its bitterness grounding her, and listened as she recounted the bank insult, the frozen accounts, the mob, and Roland's dark web fingerprints. Marcus's jaw tightened, his fingers drumming the table, and he leaned in, voice low. He claimed he could hack Peachtree Bank's servers, pull internal emails proving Roland's fraud, enough to bury him and save her merger. Nia's chest loosened, a flicker of hope igniting. With those emails, she could go public, rally investors, and keep Caldwell Enterprises alive. She nodded, authorizing Marcus to dig, her mind racing with visions of Roland's downfall. Her team rebooted their laptops, syncing with Marcus's network to track the merger's progress, and for a moment, Nia felt the old fire, the CEO who'd outsmarted every obstacle. Marcus showed her a draft hack, lines of code scrolling on, her screen, and promised results by dawn. Nia exhaled, thanking him, her guard lowering as she sipped the coffee, its warmth a rare solace. She texted Carla, her lawyer, updating her on the plan, and checked the merger funds now secure, the first payment cleared. The deadline was 48 hours away, and with Marcus's help, she might just make it. She allowed herself a smile, picturing her name on the tower untainted, her legacy intact. But trust was a blade, and Marcus wielded it. As Nia scrolled through her phone, planning her next move, Marcus slipped a tracker into its case, his fingers swift, unnoticed. He'd been in debt to Roland for years, a loan from Peachtree Bank that funded his startup, and Roland had called it in, demanding Nia's head. Marcus's smile hid his shame, his loyalty bought with threats of ruin. He stepped away, texting Roland her location, his heart heavy but his choice made. Nia, oblivious, rallied her team, assigning tasks to prep for the email leak. Jamal, her assistant, flagged a news update. The mob had dispersed, but online hate surged, her face plastered across forums with bounties for her capture. She shoved the fear down, focusing on Marcus's hack, believing it was her ticket out. The bunker's hum felt safe, its walls a shield, and she let her team rest, their snores filling the air. Nia stayed up, eyes on the monitors, waiting for Marcus's breakthrough. But at 3 a.m, a low rumble shook the bunker, not thunder but engines. Headlights pierced the windows, blinding as tires screeched outside. Nia's heart lurched. She rushed to a monitor, flipping to the external cameras, and saw them. 6 men in black tactical gear, rifles slung, faces masked, piling out of vans. Roland's goons, not mob rabble, but hired muscle, their movements precise, deadly. Nia shouted, waking her team, their groggy panic erupting as glass shattered, the bunker's windows caving under crowbars. Bullets tore through the air, pinging, off steel as the goons breached the door. Nia grabbed a fire extinguisher, spraying foam to blind the intruders, her team scrambling for cover behind servers. Marcus froze, his eyes darting, guilt flashing before he ducked, shouting he'd handle it. But Nia saw the truth in his flinch, the betrayal cutting deeper than the gunfire. She yelled for her team to follow, sprinting toward a back exit. Marcus had shown her a maintenance hatch to the sewers. Bullets grazed her arm, blood soaking her sleeve, but she pushed through, shoving her team ahead. Jamal tripped, a goon's boot slamming his back, but Nia hauled him up, her strength fueled by rage. They reached the hatch, wrenching it open, the stench of mildew hitting hard as they dropped into the dark. Nia was last, slamming the hatch shut, but not before a goon's gloved hand grabbed her ankle. She kicked, bone crunching, and fell into the sewer, landing hard on slimy concrete. Above, the goons pounded the hatch, their muffled curses echoing, but it held. Nia's team, battered and soaked, stared at her, their eyes asking questions she couldn't answer. She led them through the tunnel, ankle throbbing, blood dripping, the bunker's gunfire a fading roar. Her phone, still clutched in her hand, buzzed with a notification, a bank alert. Another account frozen, flagged for terrorism. Roland's reach even here was suffocating. Nia's mind spun, replaying Marcus's promise, his too smooth offer, and the tracker she hadn't seen. He'd sold her out, turned her refuge into a trap, and Roland's men were proof. Her team's whispers grew sharp, doubting her judgment, but she silenced them, her voice a whip, promising a way out. They emerged in a vacant lot, the city's skyline a distant taunt, her tower's lights mocking her fall. Nia checked her phone, its battery low, and saw a text from Carla. Malik was freed, but the cops were hunting her, tipped off by an anonymous source. Marcus. Nia's fists clenched, her nails drawing blood. She'd trusted him, let him in, and he'd handed her to Roland like a trophy. The merger was slipping, her team was breaking, and Roland's goons were likely circling, their rifles ready. Nia scanned the lot, spotting a dumpster behind a shuttered warehouse, its rust flaking under her touch. She ordered her team to hide inside, their reluctance clear, but they obeyed, squeezing into the foul space, laptops clutched like lifelines. Nia climbed in last, pulling the lid down, the darkness swallowing them. Bullets whined nearby, goons sweeping the area, their boots crunching gravel. Nia held her breath, her team's fear a palpable weight, her own rage boiling. Marcus's betrayal wasn't just personal. It was a signal Roland could turn anyone, buy any soul. The merger's clock ticked, 36 hours left, and her empire hung by a thread. As the goons' footsteps faded, Nia whispered a plan, her voice steel. They'd go public, expose Roland's crimes, and rally the city. Her team nodded, their doubt lingering, but she didn't care. She'd fight alone if she had to. Slipping from the dumpster, she led them toward a payphone, her last shot to reach Carla, to light a spark Roland couldn't snuff. But as she dialed, a van's headlights flared, its engine growling, and Nia knew the fight wasn't over. Nia Caldwell's breath rasped in the damp night air. Her team crouched beside her in the shadow of a rusted warehouse, the dumpster's stench still clinging to their clothes. The van's headlights from moments ago had vanished, but the growl of its engine lingered in her ears, a reminder of Roland Vance's goons who'd nearly killed them in Marcus's bunker. Her arm throbbed, blood crusting from a bullet graze, and her phone screen flickered, battery at 5%, showing another account frozen, tagged with a terrorism flag. Marcus's betrayal, his tracker handing her to Roland's. Mercenaries burned hotter than the wound. Her team's eyes, wide with doubt, bored into her, their faith in her leadership crumbling after the mob, the cops, and now this. Nia's merger, the lifeline of Caldwell Enterprises, was slipping. 36 hours from collapse, and Roland, the Peachtree Bank VP, was strangling her empire with every move. She led them to a payphone, its plastic cracked, the lot silent, but for distant sirens. Her fingers shook as she dialed Carla, her lawyer, whispering their location. Carla's voice was steady, promising a rendezvous, but Nia's mind churned. Hiding wasn't enough. Roland's lies, his smears branding her. A fraud had turned Atlanta against her. She needed to fight back, not with lawsuits, but with truth, raw and public. Nia hung up, her gaze falling on Jamal, her assistant, clutching his laptop, its screen glowing with a draft video he'd edited during their office siege. It was her story, unfiltered. The bank teller's slur, the frozen accounts, the mobs, firebombs, Marcus's knife in her back. She'd planned to release it later, but now, cornered in a filthy lot, she saw it as her only weapon. Nia ordered Jamal to upload it, her voice a blade, ignoring his stuttered fears of retaliation. They hacked a nearby cafe's Wi-Fi, the signal weak but enough, and Jamal's fingers flew, posting the video to every platform, tagging Roland, Greg the teller, and Marcus. Nia narrated, her face lit by the laptop's glow, her words sharp, naming Roland's racism, his power grabs, his hired guns. She held up her bloody sleeve, proof of the ambush, and called for justice, for her city to see the truth. The upload finished, the video live, and Nia's chest heaved, a mix of dread and defiance. They slipped back into the shadows, moving, to meet Carla at a gas station 2 miles away, the city's pulse a low hum of danger. By dawn, the video exploded, racking up 1 million views, hashtags like Car Justice for Nia trending. Protests flared outside Peachtree Bank, crowds chanting her name, their signs demanding Roland's head. Nia, holed up in Carla's safe house, a cramped apartment above a barbershop, watched the news on a grainy TV, her team huddled around. Donors called, pledging funds to save the merger, their voices crackling through Carla's burner phone. Nia's heart lifted, the merger's deadline now. Within reach, her tower's name no longer a target but a beacon. She hugged Jamal, her smile fierce, believing she'd flipped the script, turned Roland's lies into dust. The protests grew, blocking downtown, and a rival bank offered a loan to bridge her funds. Nia felt the tide turning, her empire clawing, back from the brink. She planned a press conference ready to double down, to name Roland's dark web schemes and Marcus's debt to him. Her team, reinvigorated, drafted statements, their doubt replaced by fire. Nia stood taller, the CEO again, ready to bury Roland and save her legacy. But Roland wasn't done. As Nia prepped for the conference, her phone buzzed with a new video, this one from an anonymous account. It showed her protest footage, edited to paint her as a rioter, her voice doctored to scream, "Burn it down." The caption read, "Nia Caldwell's extortion plot exposed." Her stomach plummeted. News channels flipped, branding her a criminal inciting violence, the protests now riots in their eyes. Nia's team froze, the safe house's walls closing in, but before she could counter, boots thundered outside. Cops burst through the door, riot gear gleaming, shouting her name. Carla lunged, arguing jurisdiction, but an officer, his badge glinting, slammed Nia to the floor, cuffs biting her wrists. They charged her with inciting violence, the doctored video, their proof. Her team screamed, held back by batons, as Nia was dragged to a squad car, the barbershop's neon sign blurring through her tears. The protests outside turned chaotic, some chanting her name, others hurling bottles, believing Roland's lies. Nia's mind raced, replaying the video's upload, her moment of triumph now a trap. Roland had twisted her truth, his power bending the city like a puppet. She was shoved into a cell at Fulton County Jail, the door clanging shut, the air thick with mildew and despair. Her cellmates, hardened women with hollow eyes, muttered slurs, their whispers echoing the mob's signs. Nia sat on the bunk, her grazed arm aching, her merger fading, her team scattered. Hours passed, the jail's fluorescent, Buzz her only company, until a guard, a lanky man with a crooked smirk, slid her dinner tray through the slot. Nia lifted the lid, expecting slop, but a sharp chemical stench hit her nose. She recoiled, the tray's soup laced with bleach, its fumes burning her throat. The guard laughed, his voice low, calling her a fraud who'd learn her place. Nia shoved the tray away, her stomach heaving, but the bleach's sting lingered, her vision blurring. She pounded the bars, demanding a doctor, but the guard walked off, his chuckle fading. Her cellmates jeered, one spitting at her feet, their hate a mirror of the city's. Nia curled into the bunk, pain radiating, her mind screaming one name: Roland. He'd reached her even here, his influence poisoning the air she breathed. The merger's clock ticked. 24 hours left, and her video, her defiance, had only tightened his grip. She thought of her tower, its lights dimmed in her mind, and her team, maybe lost to fear. Nia's fists clenched, nails digging into her palms, rage drowning the pain. She'd trusted Marcus, believed in the city, but Roland had turned both against her. The guard's smirk, the bleach, the cuffs, all were his doing, a message she wasn't safe anywhere. Nia's eyes burned, not from fumes, but fury. She'd get out, expose him again, make him pay. But as she lay there, the jail's walls humming, a new sound broke through, boots again, heavier, coming closer. The guard's voice returned, not laughing now, but sharp, barking orders. Nia sat up, heart hammering, ready to fight, but the key. Door swung open, revealing not freedom, but a new nightmare she couldn't yet see. Comment with number 1 if you're furious at Roland's twisted lies, smash that like button if you believe Nia can still rise, and subscribe, because the next chapter's shock will hit harder than ever. When the city brands her a terrorist, how will Nia claw her way out? Nia Caldwell's body ached, curled on the jail cell's cold bunk, the bleach's chemical burn still stinging her throat from the guard's poisoned tray. The jeers of her cellmates, their slurs echoing the mob's signs, mingled with the fluorescent hum of Fulton County Jail, a cage Roland Vance had locked her in. His doctored video painting her as a rioter had landed her here, charged with inciting violence, her viral defiance twisted into a trap. Her merger, Caldwell Enterprises' lifeline, had 24 hours left, and her team was scattered, their faith in her shattered. The guards' boots had returned, their heavy tread halting outside her cell, and Nia braced, expecting another blow. But it was Carla, her lawyer, flanked by a new guard, her face grim but determined. Carla had pulled strings, citing illegal detention, and secured Nia's bail, paid by a donor moved by her video. The cell door groaned open, and Nia staggered. Out, her grazed arm throbbing, her pride battered but her will unbroken. Carla led her to a back exit, avoiding the jail's main hall where cameras waited, hungry for her downfall. Outside, a doctor, a quiet black woman named Dr. Elise, waited. In an unmarked van, her medical bag open, she cleaned Nia's wounds, flushing the bleach's toxins with saline, her hand steady as she murmured encouragement. Nia's vision cleared, the pain easing, and she thanked Elise, her voice hoarse but fierce. Carla handed her a burner phone, warning that Roland's reach was growing, his lies now national news. Nia nodded, climbing into the van's back, her mind sharpening. She was free, the merger still in reach, and she'd rebuild, expose Roland again, make him choke on his own venom. Elise drove them to a low-rent motel on Atlanta's outskirts, its neon sign flickering, a temporary hideout. Nia showered, hot water washing away jail grime, and changed into clothes Carla had brought, a plain hoodie and jeans, her CEO polish gone but her fire blazing. She checked the burner, seeing texts from Jamal, safe but shaken, saying the team was regrouping. The merger funds were holding, the donor's loan intact, and Nia felt a surge of hope, her empire not yet ash. She planned to rally her team, leak more proof of Roland's fraud, and push the merger through before Roland could strike again. But as she stepped outside to meet Carla, the motel's TV blared, a breaking news alert freezing her blood. Her face filled the screen, labeled fugitive, with doctored footage showing her assaulting the jail guard, her fist seemingly raised, a lie stitched from shadows. The anchor called her a dangerous instigator, and a police chief, his badge gleaming, announced a citywide manhunt, a $10,000 reward for her capture. Nia's knees buckled, Carla catching her, but the truth hit harder than the cuffs. Roland had flipped her release, his influence twisting justice itself. Her burner buzzed, a news push confirming the manhunt, her name now a curse across Atlanta. Nia's mind raced, replaying the jail, the guard's smirk, Roland's invisible hand. She told Carla to drive anywhere, just move, but as they peeled out, headlights flared behind them, not cops but worse, bounty hunters, their SUVs unmarked, their intent lethal. Nia ducked, her heart hammering, as Carla floored the van, weaving through traffic. The hunters' vehicles, black and sleek, roared closer, their drivers faceless but relentless, Roland's hired dogs sniffing her trail. Nia spotted a side street, shouting for Carla to turn, but a hunter's SUV rammed their bumper, metal screeching, the van fishtailing. Elise screamed, clutching her bag, but Nia stayed focused, scanning for escape. They hit a warehouse district. Its narrow alleys a maze, and Carla swerved, dodging a second ram. Nia saw a junkyard ahead, its gates open, and urged Carla to aim for it, a gamble to lose the hunters. The van skidded inside, tires kicking gravel, but the hunters followed, their headlights slicing the dark. Nia's eyes caught a stack of rusted cars, a hiding spot, but Carla hesitated, fear locking her grip. Nia grabbed the wheel, yanking them behind the stack, killing the engine, the van cloaked in shadow. The hunters' SUVs circled, their radios crackling, voices barking coordinates. Nia held her breath, Carla's hand trembling in hers, Elise whispering a prayer. Minutes dragged, the hunters' engines fading. But Nia knew they'd return, Roland's money buying endless pursuit. She slipped out, checking the junkyard, and spotted a battered sedan, its keys glinting in the ignition. A stroke of luck. Nia hotwired it, her hands steady from years of fixing her dad's old truck, and signaled her team to pile in. Carla took the wheel, Elise in back, and Nia rode shotgun, the sedan's engine coughing but alive. They eased out, sticking to back roads, the city's skyline a distant threat, her tower's lights a fading dream. Nia's burner showed new alerts. The manhunt had escalated, roadblocks popping up, her face on every screen. She texted Jamal, ordering the team to go dark, fearing Roland's reach. The merger's clock ticked, 18 hours left, and her donor's loan was frozen again, flagged by Roland's bank. Nia's jaw clenched, rage drowning fear. She'd been poisoned, cuffed, hunted, but she wasn't done. Carla drove toward a safe house, but a hunter's SUV reappeared, its grille looming in the rear view. Nia braced, shouting for speed, but the hunter rammed them harder this time, the sedan spinning, glass cracking. Carla fought the wheel, but the road curved, a ditch yawning ahead. The SUV rammed again, and Nia's world tilted, the sedan plunging. Into the ditch, metal crumpling, her head slamming the dash. Pain exploded, blood trickling down her temple, her vision swimming. Carla groaned, slumped over the wheel, Elise unconscious in back. The hunter's SUV stopped above, its doors opening, boots hitting dirt. Nia's hands fumbled, finding the burner, its screen cracked but alive. She typed a final message to Jamal, expose Roland, no matter what, and hit send, her fingers slick with blood. The hunters' shadows loomed, their rifles glinting, Roland's orders clear, end her. Nia's eyes fluttered, her body screaming, but her mind clung to one truth. She'd fight until her last breath. As the hunters closed in, a new engine roared, headlights blinding. Not a hunter, but someone else, a rescuer or another trap, her fate hanging in the ditch's mud. Nia Caldwell's head throbbed, blood matting her hair, her body pinned in the wrecked sedan's passenger seat, the ditch's mud seeping through shattered windows. The bounty hunters' boots crunched above, their rifles ready, Roland Vance's. Orders to end her echoing in their radios. Her burner phone, cracked but glowing, held her last message to Jamal, urging him to expose Roland's crimes. Carla slumped over the wheel, Elise unconscious in back, the air thick with gasoline and fear. The hunters' shadows loomed, but a new roar cut the night, headlights blazing, not another trap, but salvation. A beat-up pickup screeched to a halt, its driver, a white woman with cropped hair and frantic eyes, leaping out. She shouted at the hunters, her voice sharp, claiming she'd called the cops. They hesitated, their radios crackling, then scattered, their SUVs peeling away. Nia's vision swam, but she caught the woman's name, Sarah, a Peachtree bank teller, her face familiar from Nia's viral video. Sarah yanked the sedan's door, pulling Nia free, her hands trembling but strong. She dragged Carla and Elise out, checking their pulses, and helped Nia into the pickup's cab. Carla and Elise slumped in the back. Sarah floored it, the junkyard fading, her voice shaking as she explained. She'd seen Nia's video, the one naming Roland, Greg, and Marcus, and it broke her. She'd worked under Greg, watched his sneers, but Roland's lies, branding Nia a terrorist, were too much. Sarah had quit, stealing internal bank memos from Roland's office, proof of his fraud, money laundering, and orders to crush Nia. She'd tracked Nia's manhunt, desperate to help, and spotted the crash. Nia's chest tightened, hope flickering. But trust was a wound after Marcus's betrayal. She studied Sarah's knuckles, white on the wheel, and chose to believe for now. The pickup rattled to a motel, its sign half lit, a dive far from Atlanta's core. Sarah carried the memos, a thick stack of printouts, and handed them to Nia, her eyes pleading for forgiveness. Nia scanned the pages, her pulse quickening, emails from Roland to Greg, ordering Nia's accounts frozen, others to media, planting. The fraud story, even one to a dark web contact hiring the mob. It was a goldmine, enough to ruin Roland, save her merger, and clear her name. Carla stirred, her head bruised but her mind sharp, and confirmed the memo's weight, enough for a federal case. Elise woke, groggy, tending to Nia's head wound. With a motel first aid kit, her hands steady despite the chaos. Nia stood, pain lancing her skull, but her fire roared. The merger's deadline was 12 hours away, the donor's loan still frozen, but these memos could unlock it. She called Jamal on the burner, his voice crackling from a hideout, and ordered him to prep a press release leaking the memos globally. Sarah offered her laptop, its Wi-Fi spotty but functional, and Nia's team, scattered but loyal, synced remotely, drafting statements. Nia felt the tide shift, her tower's name glowing in her mind, her empire within reach. She planned a dawn broadcast, a live stream from the motel, naming Roland's crimes, rallying donors, and pushing the merger through. Carla lined up a sympathetic reporter, and Elise patched Nia's wounds, her touch a quiet anchor. Nia thanked Sarah, her voice thick, seeing guilt in her eyes but also courage. The motel's hum felt like a war room, her team's keystrokes a battle cry. She believed she'd won, Roland's lies crumbling, her name rising from the ashes. But Roland's wrath was a storm, and Sarah's theft had tripped his alarms. As Nia prepped her stream, her burner buzzed. A news alert. Sarah's house, small ranch in Decatur, was ablaze, flames devouring its roof. The fire labeled arson. Nia's stomach dropped, Sarah's gasp cutting the air. The news showed a blurry photo. Sarah's son, a 6-year-old named Eli, missing, last seen near the house. A text followed from an unknown number. Return the memos, or the kid dies. Nia's hands shook, the memos suddenly heavy, Roland's cruelty a blade at her throat. Sarah sobbed, collapsing, her courage shattered, begging Nia to comply. Carla argued for police, but Nia knew Roland owned them, his cops complicit in Malik's arrest, the mob's firebombs. The merger's clock ticked, 8 hours left, and Nia faced a choice, save Eli or her empire. She tried negotiating, texting. The number offering a partial leak, but the reply was a photo of Eli bound, his eyes wide with fear. Nia's rage surged, but fear choked it, Roland's power suffocating. She rallied her team, ordering Jamal to trace the number, but time was bleeding. As dawn broke, the motel's walls trembled, not from wind but a blast. A bomb detonated outside, the parking lot erupting, flames licking the pickup, shrapnel shredding the motel's facade. Nia dove, shielding Sarah, her team scrambling, the memos scattering like ash. The blast's heat seared her skin, her ears ringing, but she grabbed the papers, clutching them as her lifeline. Carla yanked Sarah to safety, Elise crawling under a bed. But the motel burned, its structure groaning. Nia's eyes locked on the flames, Roland's message clear. No refuge, no mercy. She led her team out a back window, glass cutting her palms, the memos stuffed in her hoodie. They ran. The city's dawn light a cruel spotlight, the merger's deadline a noose. Sarah's sobs echoed, Eli's fate a weight Nia couldn't shake. The memos were her weapon, but Roland had turned them into a curse, his reach endless, his hate a fire that consumed all. Nia's team stumbled into an alley, their breath ragged, the motel's blaze lighting the sky. She checked the burner, its battery fading, and saw Jamal's reply. The trace failed, but he'd leaked a memo snippet, enough to rattle Roland's board. Nia's jaw clenched, her resolve hardening. She'd save Eli, save her merger, and burn Roland's empire to the ground. But as they hid, a new sound rose, not sirens but drones, their hum chilling. Roland's next move already in motion. Comment with number 1 if you're gutted by Roland's heartless kidnapping. Hit that like button if you're cheering Nia's fight to save Eli, and subscribe because the next chapter's betrayal will shake you to your core. Can Nia outsmart a foe who'd sacrifice a child to win? Nia Caldwell's lungs burned, her team stumbling through an alley's filth, the motel's explosion still ringing in her ears, flames painting the Atlanta dawn red. Sarah's sobs echoed, her son Eli kidnapped by Roland Vance, the Peachtree Bank VP whose memos, clutched in Nia's hoodie, proved his fraud but now cost a child's life. The drone's hum from moments ago had faded, but their threat lingered, Roland's reach a noose tightening around her. Carla limped beside her, bruised from the blast, while Elise, clutching her medical kit, scanned for pursuers. The merger, Caldwell Enterprises' heartbeat, had 6 hours left, its funds frozen again, and Nia's name, once blazing on her tower, was now a fugitive's curse. The memos, blood-stained but intact, were her last weapon, but Roland's bombing showed he'd killed to keep them buried. Nia led her team to a storm drain, its grate loose, and they slipped inside, the dank air swallowing them. Her burner phone, barely alive, showed Jamal's message. The memo snippet he'd leaked had rattled Roland's board, stock prices dipping. Nia's jaw tightened, a spark of defiance. She needed an ally, someone with clout to amplify the memos, save Eli, and push the merger through. Carla suggested Lena Harper, CEO of SunTrust Bank, a rival who'd clashed with Roland for years. Nia hesitated, her trust scarred by Marcus's betrayal, but Lena's rep as a fierce black woman in finance swayed her. They crawled through the drain, emerging in a vacant lot, the city's skyline a taunt. Carla hotwired a delivery van, its paint-chipped, and they drove to a payphone near a shuttered diner, Nia's fingers dialing Lena's private line, a number Carla had from old legal battles. Lena's voice was smooth, skeptical, but she agreed to meet, intrigued by the memo's promise to crush Roland. Nia's team piled back into the van, weaving through back streets to avoid Roland's drones, the merger's deadline a blade at her throat. They met Lena at a loft in Midtown, its glass walls overlooking Atlanta's sprawl, her presence commanding, her suit sharp as a knife. Nia laid out the memos, her voice steady despite the pain in her ribs, detailing Roland's fraud, his mob, his goons, and Eli's kidnapping. Sarah, eyes hollow, begged Lena to help, her son's photo trembling in her hand. Lena's gaze softened, but her mind was steel, seeing a chance to topple Roland and boost her bank's stock. She pledged to leak the memos globally, her media contacts ready to blast Roland's crimes, and offered a loan to unfreeze Nia's merger funds. Nia's chest loosened, hope surging. Lena's team, a crew of coders and PR sharks, prepped a press conference, syncing with Jamal remotely to amplify the leak. Nia saw her tower in her mind, its lights reigniting, the merger within grasp. Carla drafted legal motions to protect Sarah, while Elise tended to Nia's cuts, her touch a quiet strength. Lena handed Nia a secure phone, its screen showing donor, pledges flooding in, the merger's funds nearly secured. Nia smiled, fierce, believing she'd outmaneuvered Roland, his empire wobbling, Eli's rescue close. The press conference went live, Lena's voice booming, naming Roland's fraud, the memos flashing on screens worldwide. Crowds gathered outside Peachtree Bank, chanting Nia's name, her fugitive label fading. The merger's deadline ticked. 2 hours left, but Lena's loan cleared, funds wired, the deal sealed. Nia hugged Sarah, promising Eli's safety, her team's eyes bright with victory. She thought she'd won, Roland's lies shattered, her name rising like a phoenix. But Roland's venom was endless. As Nia celebrated, Lena's coders froze, their screens glitching, a virus ripping through SunTrust's servers. Funds vanished, not just Nia's, but billions. Accounts drained in seconds. A news alert hit Nia's phone. SunTrust hacked. Nia's name tied to the breach, labeled a cyber-terrorist. Her heart sank, Lena's face paling, her coders scrambling but helpless. The memos leak had triggered Roland's trap, his hackers, buried deep in Lena's systems, framing Nia for the heist. Federal agents stormed the loft, their boots shaking the glass, shouting Nia's name. Lena lunged, arguing, but an agent, his eyes cold, slammed Nia against a wall, cuffs snapping her wrists, the memos falling to the floor. Carla screamed, held back, while Sarah collapsed, Eli's fate forgotten in the chaos. Elise tried to shield Nia, but agents shoved her aside, their radios barking orders from above. Nia's mind spun. Roland's reach now federal, his lies painting her as a global threat. The agents dragged her to an armored van, the city's cheers turning to jeers, believing the hack. Nia's merger, sealed moments ago, teetered. Investors pulling out. Her tower's name a curse again. The van's doors slammed, but as Nia sat, cuffed, a red laser dot danced on her chest, a sniper's mark through the window. Her breath caught. Roland's final warning. Speak and die. The agent driving smirked, his badge glinting, a Peachtree Bank pin on his lapel. Roland's puppet. Nia's fists clenched, her nails drawing blood, rage drowning fear. Lena's loft. Her last refuge was a trap. Roland's hackers one step ahead. The memos, her weapon, were useless, scattered like leaves. Sarah's sobs, Eli's bound hands, haunted her, the merger's funds gone, her team broken. Nia's eyes burned, not from tears but fury. She'd trusted Lena, believed in victory, but Roland had turned the system itself against her. The van rolled, the sniper's dot steady, Atlanta's skyline blurring outside. Nia's mind raced, replaying the hack, the cuffs, Roland's endless reach. She'd been poisoned, hunted, bombed, but this was deeper, a corporate coup stripping. Her legacy. The merger was dead, her name toxic, but she wasn't. She whispered to herself, a vow to rise, to find Eli, to burn Roland's world. The van hit a pothole, the sniper's dot flickering, and Nia saw a chance, a crack in Roland's armor, but the agent's radio crackled, a new order, a courtroom waiting, her fate sealed unless she fought. Her team, somewhere out there, needed. Her and Eli's life hung in the balance, Roland's game far from over. Nia Caldwell's wrists chafed under the cuffs, the federal van's steel bench biting into her thighs as Atlanta's skyline blurred past, the sniper's red dot still burning in her memory. Roland Vance's hack had drained SunTrust Bank, framed her as a cyber-terrorist, and turned her merger's triumph into ash. Lena's loft, her last stand, was a trap, federal agents storming it, their Peachtree Bank pins glinting, Roland's puppets in every system. Her team was scattered, Sarah's son Eli still kidnapped, And Caldwell Enterprises, her tower's legacy, hung by a thread. The van lurched into a courthouse garage, hidden from crowds, the agents' grips bruising as they dragged Nia through a back hall. Her head wound throbbed, blood flaking from the ditch crash, but her eyes burned with defiance. Carla, her lawyer, met her in a holding cell, her suit rumpled but her voice steel, promising to fight the cyber theft charges. Nia whispered about the memos, scattered in the raid, her only proof of Roland's fraud. Carla nodded, having salvaged copies from Jamal, who'd gone underground with the team. The courtroom loomed, a marble chamber packed with reporters, their cameras hungry, Roland's lies painting Nia as a monster. She stood, cuffed before Judge Harlan, a white man with a hawkish glare, his gavel a guillotine. The prosecutor, a slick man with Roland's smirk, piled on charges, cyber-terrorism, fraud, inciting riots, each word a nail in her coffin. Nia's merger was dead, investors fleeing, her tower's name toxic. But Carla was a blade, dismantling the hack's evidence, exposing flaws in the code tying Nia to SunTrust's breach. She presented the memos, their ink smudged but damning, emails from Roland ordering her accounts frozen, her life targeted. Nia testified, her voice steady, recounting the teller's slur, the mob's firebombs, Marcus's betrayal, Sarah's burned home, Eli's kidnapping. The courtroom hushed, jurors leaning forward, reporters scribbling. Carla called a coder, a SunTrust whistleblower who confirmed the hack's origins in Peachtree Bank's servers, Roland's digital fingerprints clear. Judge Harlan's glare softened, his gavel still, and Nia felt a spark, her empire not yet lost. Carla's closing argument was fire, naming Roland's racism, his vendetta against a black woman's success, the memos proof of a system rigged against Nia. The judge deliberated, hours dragging, Nia's cuffs cutting deeper, her mind on Eli, on her team, on the tower she'd built from nothing. The verdict came at dusk, Harlan's voice booming, not guilty, charges dropped, the hack's blame shifted to Roland. The courtroom erupted, reporters rushing out, crowds outside chanting, Nia's name, her fugitive label erased. Carla hugged her, tears in her eyes, and Nia stood tall, the CEO again, her merger revived by donor texts flooding her burner. The memos aired on CNN, Roland's stock crashing, Peachtree Bank's board scrambling. Nia walked free, the courthouse. Steps swarmed with supporters, their signs now praising her justice won. She smiled, fierce, believing she'd broken Roland, Eli's rescue next, her tower's lights blazing in her mind. But Roland's venom was a hydra, each cut spawning worse. As Nia addressed the crowd, vowing to save Eli, her burner buzzed. A news alert chilling her. Caldwell Enterprises seized unpaid debts claimed by a shadow firm. The crowd's cheers faltered, phones pinging with the same news. Nia's heart sank, Carla's face paling, the victory hollow. The firm's name traced to Roland, his bribe to Judge Harlan, a last-minute deal to gut Nia's empire. Reporters turned, questions biting, and Nia's voice caught, her triumph ashes. She pushed through the crowd, Carla trailing, to a safe house, a dingy apartment leased under Jamal's name. Her team waited, their eyes wide, but a new blow landed. Her phone lit up, a video from an unknown number. Her childhood home, a modest East Atlanta bungalow, trashed, windows smashed, walls spray-painted with slurs, the same word from the mob signs. Nia's breath hitched, her mother's photo, framed on the mantel, shattered in the footage. The video shifted, showing her mother, Grace, 68, bound in a chair, her eyes defiant but terrified, a thug's gloved hand holding a knife to her throat. A voice, distorted, demanded Nia retract the memos, denounce the leak or Grace would die. Nia's knees buckled, Carla catching her, the team frozen. Sarah, still with them, sobbed, Eli's fate mirrored in Grace's, Roland's cruelty endless. Nia's mind spun, the merger revived but her company gone, her mother's life now the cost. She tried texting the number, offering a deal, but the reply was a photo of Grace, blood on her cheek, the knife closer. Nia's rage surged, but despair clawed deeper, Roland's power a tidal wave. The safe house's walls closed in, her team's whispers sharp, doubting her next move. Carla urged a federal appeal, but Nia knew Roland's bribes ran too deep, his judge, his thugs, his system. The memos, her weapon, were a curse, exposing Roland, but costing everything. Nia faced a choice: retract and save Grace, or fight and lose her. She clutched the burner, its battery fading, and saw Jamal's update. The memo's global leak had sparked protests, Roland's board cracking, but it wasn't enough. Her childhood home, her mother's voice haunted her, the slurs on the walls a brand on her soul. Nia's fists clenched, nails drawing blood, her resolve a flicker in the dark. She'd built her empire against every odd, and Roland wouldn't. Take her family. She whispered to Carla, a plan forming, rogue, dangerous, to save Grace and Eli, to burn Roland's world. But as she spoke, a thud shook the safe house door. Not cops, but worse, Roland's thugs, their shadows moving, ready to end her fight. Comment with number 1 if you're outraged at Roland's vile attack on Nia's mother. Smash that like button if you're rooting for Nia to save Grace, and subscribe because the next chapter's desperate gamble will leave you stunned. When Nia goes rogue to rescue her family, what price will she pay? Nia Caldwell's heart pounded, the safe house's air thick with dread as Roland Vance's thugs hammered the door, their shadows slinking under the gap, knives glinting in the dim light. Her mother, Grace, was bound somewhere, a knife at her throat, Roland's ransom for retracting the memos that exposed his fraud. Sarah's son Eli was still missing, and Caldwell Enterprises, Nia's empire, lay gutted, seized by Roland's bribed judge. The merger was revived, but her team's eyes, crowded in the dingy apartment, flickered with doubt, their faith in her cracking. Carla clutched a burner phone, urging a call to the feds, but Nia shook her head, her voice a low growl. Roland owned the system, cops, judges, all puppets in his war against her, a black woman whose tower mocked his world. The memos, smudged but damning, were hidden in her jacket, her only leverage, but Grace's bloodied face haunted her, a price too steep. Nia's plan was rogue. No lawyers, no pleas. She'd trade the memo's source code, a digital key Jamal had extracted, to free Grace, then leak the rest to burn Roland. She texted the kidnapper's number, offering the code, her fingers trembling, the thudding door a countdown. The reply came fast: a warehouse in West End, midnight, come alone. Nia's jaw clenched, knowing it was a trap. But Grace's life, Eli's too, left no choice. She ordered her team to stay, Carla's protests sharp, Sarah's sobs piercing, but Nia slipped out a fire escape, the night's humidity cloaking her. The city pulsed, its skyline a reminder of her tower, now a ghost. She hot-wired a scooter from an alley, its engine stuttering, and raced to West End, dodging drones, Roland's eyes in the sky. The warehouse loomed, a rusted hulk, its windows black. Nia parked, her boots silent on gravel, the burner's glow her only light. She texted the code's hash, proof she had it, and a door creaked, a thug beckoning, his face scarred, his gun heavy. Inside, Grace sat tied to a chair, her grey hair matted, her eyes fierce despite the bruise on her cheek. Nia's throat tightened, but she held firm, handing over a USB with the code, her voice steady, demanding Grace's release. The thug grinned, checking the drive, and nodded, cutting Grace's ropes. Grace stumbled into Nia's arms, her whisper a vow to fight, but the thug's radio crackled, Roland's voice cold, ordering Eli's release too. Nia's chest loosened, Sarah's boy safe, and she led Grace out, the warehouse's shadows swallowing the thug's smirk. They reached the scooter, Grace frail but walking, and Nia sped to a clinic, Elise waiting to treat her. Grace was alive, battered but unbroken, and Nia's merger held, donor funds trickling back. She texted Jamal, confirming Eli's freedom, and believed she'd won, Roland's grip slipping, his bank stock crashing from the memo leaks. Her tower's name flickered in her mind, a beacon again, but Roland's hate was a tide, and Nia's trade had lit a fuse. As she left the clinic, her burner buzzed, a news alert. Caldwell Enterprises linked to terror plot. Her face filled. Screens tied to a fake bomb threat at City Hall, blueprints doctored to show her signature. Nia's stomach plummeted, Grace gasping beside her, the clinic's TV blaring her guilt. Roland had used the code not to save Eli, but to hack deeper, framing her as a terrorist, a label no protest could erase. Sirens wailed, not distant but closing. SWAT teams mobilizing, their orders shoot to kill. Nia grabbed Grace, bolting to the clinic's back, Elise trailing, her kit bouncing. They ducked into a parking lot, but floodlights hit, a SWAT van screeching in, tear gas canisters hissing. Nia's eyes burned, her lungs seizing, Grace coughing, Elise shielding her. The gas choked the air, boots stomping closer, radios barking Nia's name, armed and dangerous. She spotted a maintenance shed, its door ajar, and dragged Grace. Inside, Elise slamming it shut, the gas's sting lingering. Nia's burner showed the bomb story spreading, her face on every channel, a $10 million bounty posted. Roland's final blow. Her team, hidden somewhere, was silent. Jamal's line dead, the merger's funds frozen again. Nia's mind spun, the warehouse deal a lie, Roland's thugs playing her, the code weaponizing her downfall. Grace clutched her hand, her voice a rasp urging fight, but Nia saw the truth. Roland had turned the city into a cage, her name a death sentence. The shed's walls shook, SWAT breaching nearby, their flashlights slicing the dark. Nia's grazed arm ached, her head wound pulsing, but she searched the shed, finding a trap door, a sewer access from old city plans. She pried it open, the stench, hitting hard, and lowered Grace, Elise following, her kit slung over her shoulder. Nia went last, pulling the trapdoor shut, the sewer's slime coating her boots, SWAT's shouts muffled above. They waded through muck, rats skittering, the tunnel's hum a faint hope. Nia's burner died, its screen black, but she memorized Jamal's last coordinates, a hacker den downtown. Grace limped, her strength fading, but Nia held her, Elise's, flashlight guiding them. The sewer spat them into a canal, the city's dawn a cruel light, Nia's face on billboards above. Wanted, terrorist. Her merger was gone, her tower a myth, but Grace's pulse under her fingers kept her moving. They hid in a condemned lot, its weeds tall, and Nia planned, her voice a whisper. Find Jamal, leak the truth, save Eli's mother, Sarah, still out. There. But as they crouched, a drone's whir rose, not Roland's but another's, its lens glinting, a new player watching, friend or foe unknown, her fight far from over. Nia Caldwell's boots squelched in the canal's muck, her mother Grace leaning on her shoulder, frail but stubborn, while Elise's flashlight carved a path through the dawn's haze. The sewer's stench clung to them, their escape from Roland. Vance's SWAT raid a fleeting victory, tear gas still stinging Nia's eyes. Her face glared from billboards above, branded a terrorist, Roland's fake bomb plot burying her name. Caldwell Enterprises was seized, the merger dead, and Sarah's son Eli, though freed, left Sarah lost somewhere in Atlanta's chaos. The drone's whir from the condemned lot had vanished, but its lens haunted Nia, a watcher she couldn't place. Grace's breath rasped, her kidnapping's bruises livid, but her grip was iron, urging Nia to fight. Elise, clutching her medical kit, scanned the canal's banks, her silence a steady anchor. Nia's burner was dead, but Jamal's last coordinates, a hacker den downtown, burned in her mind. Roland, the Peachtree Bank VP, had turned the city into a manhunt, his $10 million bounty a death sentence, but Nia's rage was a pulse, her tower's memory a vow. They trudged to a storm grate, its bars loose, and slipped into a subway tunnel, the city's rumble overhead a constant threat. Nia led, her grazed arm throbbing, guiding Grace and Elise through the dark, rats fleeing their steps. The tunnel opened to a hidden door, graffiti scrawled, Jamal's code scratched in the paint. Nia knocked, her heart hammering, and the door swung, revealing a bunker lit by monitors, air thick with weed and solder. A hacker collective, 6 coders in hoodies, greeted her, their leader Zara, a wiry black woman with neon braids, nodding respect. Jamal had tipped them, Nia's video and memos their rallying cry, Roland's fraud their target. Zara showed Nia a hacked feed, Roland's board in panic, his stock in freefall from the leaks. Nia's chest stirred, hope flickering, Grace squeezing her hand, Elise's eyes bright. The hackers had cracked Roland's email, a confession buried in his drafts, admitting the mob, the hack, the kidnappings, a goldmine to clear Nia's name. Zara's crew synced with Nia's scattered team, Carla and Jamal online from hideouts, their voices crackling through a secure line. Nia laid out her plan: leak the confession, spark protests, revive the merger with donor funds, find Sarah. The hackers moved, keyboards clattering, uploading the confession to every platform. Its words searing Roland's hate for Nia, a black woman's success, his vow to erase her. By noon, the video exploded, protests erupting across Atlanta, crowds storming Peachtree Bank, signs waving Nia's name, not as a terrorist, but a hero. Donors called Zara's burner, pledging millions, the merger's funds reborn. Its deadline met remotely. Nia hugged Grace, her smile fierce, believing she'd cracked Roland's armor, his bank crumbling, Sarah's trail warm. The hackers toasted with energy drinks, Zara slapping Nia's back, the bunkers hum a war drum. Carla confirmed a judge's ruling, lifting Nia's fugitive status. The bomb plot debunked. Nia stood taller, her tower's lights reigniting. In her mind, Grace's pride afire, Elise patching her wounds with steady hands. The protests grew, blocking highways, Roland's board resigning, his empire dust. Nia planned a public stand, a speech to rally the city. Find Sarah, save her. Legacy. She thought she'd won. Roland cornered, her name soaring. But Roland's hate was a plague, and victory was his bait. As Nia prepped her speech, Zara's monitors glitched, a news alert screaming, "Private militia storms black neighborhoods, hunting terrorists." Roland's voice crackled on hacked feeds, claiming Nia's cell hid in Vine City West End, his militia, ex-cops and mercenaries, armed with rifles, tear gas, tanks. The hackers froze, feeds showing armored trucks rolling, homes raided, families dragged out. Slurs shouted, "Roland's lie, a license to kill." Nia's stomach plummeted, Grace gasping, Elise clutching her kit. The militia hit Nia's old church, a Vine City cornerstone, its steeple bombed, flames swallowing pews, allies inside, friends from her youth gone in a blast. Nia's knees buckled, Zara catching her, the bunker's air choking, the monitors a nightmare. Roland's militia wasn't hunting, it was slaughtering. His terrorist lie, a genocide against Black Atlanta. Nia's name, the spark. Protests turned to riots, crowds fighting back, but the militia's tanks rolled on, Roland's wealth buying death. Nia's mind spun, the confessions leak her sword, now twisted into a massacre. Grace whispered, urging her to act, Elise's eyes pleading. But Zara's crew was shaken, their hack backfiring. Nia rallied them, her voice a whip, ordering a counterattack, not words, but sabotage. She'd studied Roland's drones, their code in the memos, and Zara's team cracked it, grounding the fleet, their cameras blind. Nia led, syncing with Jamal, who'd hacked militia radios, sowing chaos, orders scrambled, tanks stalling. The protests gained ground, crowds shielding, homes. But the church's ashes haunted Nia, her allies' screams await. She pushed on, Zara's crew rigging a signal jam, militia comms dead, their raids faltering. Nia's merger held, funds wired, but Sarah was still lost, Eli safe but motherless. The bunker's walls trembled, not from bombs, but militia boots. Roland tracing the hack, his men closing in. Nia's grazed arm bled anew, Grace's hand steadying her, Elise ready to run. Zara pointed to a back exit, a warehouse across the street, their last stand. Nia led, the hackers grabbing drives, the confessions code their lifeline. They sprinted, the bunker's lights flickering, militia breaching, rifles raised. The warehouse loomed, its doors rusted, and Nia dove inside, Grace and Elise behind, Zara slamming the bolt. Monitors lined the walls, hacked feeds live, showing Roland's militia regrouping, his face on a screen, gloating, promising Nia's execution to the world. Nia's breath caught, the hackers frozen, Grace's eyes fierce, Elise's kit open, ready for wounds. The militia's boots echoed, their shouts a roar. Roland's broadcast a death knell, framing Nia as the chaos's cause, her name a curse to millions. She clutched the confession's drive, her plan unraveling, the merger's funds useless, in a city at war. Roland's men battered the warehouse doors, their rifles cocked, the live feed a guillotine. Nia's fight cornered, her tower a fading dream, but her rage a spark, ready to ignite. Nia Caldwell's breath caught in the warehouse's stale air. Roland Vance's militia pounding the rusted doors, their rifles clatter a death knell as his face sneered from hacked monitors, broadcasting her execution to the world. Grace clung to her arm, her mother's bruised face defiant despite the church bombing's grief, while Elise braced with her medical kit, Zara's hackers scrambling to shield their drives. The militia's tanks had torn through black neighborhoods, Roland's terrorist lie fueling slaughter, Nia's leaked confession backfiring into chaos. Her tower, Caldwell Enterprises, was a seized ruin, the merger funds revived but useless in a city at war. Sarah was still lost, Eli safe but motherless, and Nia's name, once a beacon, was a global curse, billboards screaming, "Terrorist." The monitors looped Roland's taunt, his militia claiming her as the chaos's root. Atlanta's riots their excuse. Nia's grazed arm bled, her head wound pulsing, but her mind was a blade, slicing through panic. Zara's crew, their neon braids glinting, had cracked Roland's drones, but his broadcast was live, millions watching, a guillotine she'd turn against him. She whispered to Zara, her voice a spark, ordering a hack into the feed, not to shut it, but to hijack it. The hackers hesitated, militia boots splintering the doors, but Nia's glare rallied them, Grace's nod a steel anchor, Elise's steady hands ready for wounds. Zara's fingers flew, cables sparking as she breached the broadcast signal. A backdoor in Roland's own code, stolen from the memos. Nia stood before a webcam, her face bloodied but fierce, and spoke as the hack went live, her voice cutting through Roland's lies. She named his fraud, the mob, the kidnappings, the church's ashes, her words a fire, the confession's proof flashing on screens worldwide. Crowds paused, riots stalling as Nia's truth hit, Roland's militia faltering, their radio silent from Zara's jams. The broadcast flipped, Roland's sneer replaced by his emails, his hate for Nia's success bare, his orders to kill undeniable. Peachtree Bank's stock crashed, its board fleeing, servers melting under hacker floods. The militia scattered, their tanks abandoned, crowds outside cheering Nia's name, not as a terrorist but a savior. Zara's crew roared, Grace hugged Nia, her pride a balm, Elise's smile rare but bright. Protests swelled, shielding black neighborhoods, donors wiring funds, the merger sealed remotely. Caldwell Enterprises stirring, Nia's burner lit up, Jamal's text confirming Sarah's trail, a hospital lead. She stood taller, her towers, lights blazing in her mind. Roland's empire dust, her name rising from the grave. She planned to find Sarah, rally the city, rebuild her legacy, believing she'd broken Roland at last. But Roland's venom was a chameleon, and victory was his snare. As Nia stepped from the webcam, Zara's monitors flickered, a news alert, screaming, "Atlanta water supply poisoned, Caldwell Enterprises blamed." Her heart sank, Grace gasping, Elise clutching her kit. The alert showed reservoirs tainted, hospitals flooded with victims, a chemical signature tied to Nia's tech, doctored logs framing her company as an eco-terrorist. Crowds turned, rioters looting her old offices, smashing her tower's glass. The cheers now jeers, believing Roland's lie. Nia's knees buckled, Zara catching her, the warehouse's walls a cage again. The merger funds froze, donors fleeing, Sarah's trail cold. Roland's broadcast had been a trap, his servers rigged. To flip the hack, planting the poison plot while Nia spoke. Her truth, her fire, had fueled his greatest blow, Atlanta choking on his venom, her name the scapegoat. Grace's eyes burned, urging fight, but Elise's hands trembled, Zara's crew shaken, their drives useless. Nia's mind spun. The church's ashes, Grace's bruises, Eli's bound hands, now this. A city dying by her hand. Roland's lie perfect. She rallied, her voice a whip, ordering Zara to trace the poison's source, but feeds showed militia regrouping, Roland's wealth endless, his hackers one step ahead. Nia's grazed arm seeped, her strength fraying, but she saw a lead, Roland's gloat on the old feed, a slip about his safe house. She hacked his metadata with Zara, pinpointing a penthouse downtown, his lair a chance to end him. Nia led her team out a side exit, the militia's shouts fading, the warehouse a tomb they'd escaped. They stole a van, its tires bald, and raced to the penthouse, Atlanta's chaos a blur, sirens wailing, water mains bursting, crowds cursing Nia's name. The penthouse towered, glass and steel, Roland's fortress, his guards light, believing her broken. Nia slipped inside, Grace and Elise behind, Zara's crew covering remotely, their drones now hers, buzzing above. She climbed a service stair, her boots silent, Grace's breath ragged but fierce, Elise's kit ready. The penthouse door loomed, its lock digital, Zara cracking it via radio. Nia stepped in, the air cool. Roland's back to her, his suit crisp, a skyline view mocking her tower's ruin. He turned, grinning, a pistol in his hand, his voice silk, calling her terrorist, gloating over the poisoned city, her company's fall, her mother's pain. Nia's fists clenched, her memos useless, the merger gone, Sarah lost but her rage a fire, Grace's eyes her strength, Elise's nod a vow. Roland raised the gun, his finger curling, her name his final taunt, but Nia's mind raced, a move left, a spark to ignite or a grave to fall. Roland's game, hers to flip or die trying. Nia Caldwell's pulse thundered, her boots rooted to the penthouse's polished floor. Roland Vance's pistol glinting inches from her chest, his grin a venomous slash across his face. Atlanta's skyline sprawled beyond the glass walls. Her tower's lights dimmed by Roland's lies, the city choking on his poisoned water. Her name, once blazing on Caldwell Enterprises, now branded eco-terrorist. Grace stood rigid behind her, her mother's bruised eyes fierce, urging fight, while Elise clutched her medical kit poised for blood. The memos, Nia's proof of Roland's fraud, were ashes in her mind, useless against his gun. Her merger dead, Sarah still lost, the church's bombing a scar on her soul. Roland's voice dripped malice, calling her fraud, gloating over the looted offices, the dying city, her mother's pain, his finger curling on the trigger. Nia's grazed arm throbbed, her head wound a dull ache, but her rage was a furnace. Grace's strength a shield, Elise's silence a vow. She'd faced his mob, his goons, his hacks, his kidnappings, and now, face to face, she saw his weakness, a man drunk on power, blind to her will. Nia's eyes flicked to his desk, a laptop glowing, its camera live, Roland's arrogance streaming to his allies. She lunged, not away but forward, her shoulder slamming his wrist, the gun firing, a bullet grazing her hip, pain searing but not stopping her. Roland stumbled, his grin faltering, and Nia twisted his arm, the pistol clattering to the marble. Grace kicked it away, her frail frame a lion's, while Elise dove, pinning Roland's legs, her kit spilling bandages. Nia wrestled him to the desk, her knee on his chest, her hands ripping his tie, binding his wrists, her breath ragged but victorious. She dragged him to the laptop, its camera blinking, and forced his face to the lens, her voice a blade, demanding he confess. Roland spat, his eyes venom, but Nia's grip tightened, her hip bleeding, Grace's stare boring into him, Elise's hands ready to staunch wounds. The city watched, hacked feeds live from Zara's crew, millions seeing Roland's mask crack. He choked out words, admitting the water poisoning, the memo's truth, the mob, the church, the kidnappings, his hate for Nia's success, a black woman's tower defying his world. Nia's heart surged, the confession a torch lighting his empire's ruin. She tied him tighter, his suit creased, his power dust, and hit send, the video flooding every screen, Peachtree Bank's servers melting, its stock zero, Roland's name a curse. Sirens wailed below, not his militia, but feds tipped by Zara storming the penthouse, their badges clean, cuffs snapping on Roland's wrists, his glare hollow as they dragged him away. Nia staggered, blood pooling, Elise bandaging her hip, Grace's arm steadying her. the city's chaos fading on the monitors, protests turning to cheers, Nia's name rising, not as terrorist, but savior. The feds cleared her, the water plot debunked, chemical logs traced to Roland's offshore accounts, Caldwell Enterprises freed from seizure, donor funds flooding back. Jamal called, voice cracking, confirming Sarah found, safe in a hospital with Eli, the merger sealed, her tower's accounts live. Nia's team regrouped, Carla's legal motions ironclad. Zara's hackers hailed as heroes, the city's water cleansed by emergency crews, Roland's lie a fading nightmare. Nia stood, pain lancing her side, but her spine steel, Grace's pride, a fire, Elise's nod a quiet triumph. She walked to the penthouse balcony, Atlanta's dawn breaking, her tower's lights blazing, Caldwell Enterprises hers again, the merger a beacon for tech, her name reclaimed. Crowds gathered below, chanting justice, their signs waving her face, not in hate but hope. Nia smiled fierce, believing she'd won, Roland broken, Sarah safe, her mother free, the city hers. She climbed to the tower's roof, her team behind. The skyline hers to command, the memo's truth a sword she'd wield forever. But as she raised her fist, a hum pierced the air, not sirens but a drone, its sleek frame circling, its lens cold, locked on her. Nia froze, Grace's gasp sharp. Elise's eyes narrowing, the crowd unaware. The drone's lights blinked red. A payload gleaming, explosives rigged to level the roof. Roland's final trap, planted before his fall. Nia's mind raced, Zara's voice crackling through a radio, warning of a signal override, the drone's code not Roland's but another's, a shadow player, his allies, a cabal untouched by his arrest. Nia dove for a control box, her hips screaming, and jammed the signal with Zara's hack, the drone spiraling, crashing into a vacant lot, its blast shaking the city, but not her tower. The crowd screamed, scattering, but Nia stood, her team safe. The skyline intact, her name glowing, unbowed. She scanned the horizon, the drone's owner gone, but watching, their wealth deeper than Roland's, their hate a seed he'd sown. Grace clutched her hand, Elise packed her kit, Zara's voice vowing to trace the cabal. But Nia knew the truth. Roland was a pawn, his war a spark for theirs, her fight far from over. She turned to the crowd, her voice booming, promising justice, rebuilding, her tower a symbol not of victory but defiance. Atlanta roared back, their cheers a tide, but Nia's eyes stayed sharp, the skyline a battlefield, her name a target, the cabal's shadow lengthening, their next move hers to meet, or die trying. Nia Caldwell's battle in The Name on the Tower teaches us that systemic racism, though brutal, can't extinguish resilience. Her fight against Roland Vance's racist schemes, bank freezes, mobs, kidnappings and lies, shows how power twists truth to silence black success. Yet Nia's defiance, outsmarting a city turned against her, proves courage can reclaim what's stolen. The cabal's shadow at the end warns that racism's roots run deep, demanding constant vigilance. Grace's strength, Sarah's redemption, and Nia's hacked broadcast highlight community as a shield, turning pain into purpose. No one wins alone. Nia leaned on her team, even when trust was scarred. Roland's fall reminds us evil overreaches, but the drone's crash signals new fights loom. We learn to question narratives, especially when they vilify the marginalized, and to stand firm like Nia when the world bets against you. Her tower still shines, a symbol of hope over hate. What's your takeaway from Nia's war on injustice? Comment below with your thoughts. Hit that like button if her grit inspires you. Subscribe to catch more tales of defiance, and share to spread her truth. Thanks for joining this journey through Atlanta's shadows. Here's wishing you the strength to rise like Nia against any storm.